What's up, guys? Little from XS here. Doing part 2 of the negative police encounters I've had. I'm doing these videos once again because I've been told multiple times in person and on, like, I've seen on social media that because I'm white, I've never had to deal with crooked police or police harassing me, which I have multiple times. And I've said before, I've had more negative encounters with police than I've had positive ones. And I think that's crazy. Like, that's insane to think about. Now, I'm not counting the times that I was doing something illegal and a cop stopped me, like speeding or any of that stuff. I'm counting the times that I was doing nothing and saw a police officer and had a good encounter with him, and the times where I was doing nothing and saw a police officer and had a negative encounter with him. That's what I'm counting. I'm not counting me doing illegal things like speeding or whatever. But so yesterday, or a couple days ago, I did the video on how a cop backed into my car, and that cop was a good cop. He left me all his information, and the cops that showed up, they covered the whole thing up and pretty much falsified a police report and stole and destroyed evidence from me for whatever reason. I don't know. It's weird. So today I'm going to do the times I've been stopped and searched. Twice on my private property. Once on, it was on private property, but it wasn't my private property. So all three of these, I'm not saying that veterans or military members should be treated any different, but if I establish with a cop, like, hey, I'm in the military, here's my military ID, that should tell them a couple things. I'm not a criminal, I don't have warrants, I don't do drugs because we get drug tests all the time. So it should put police at ease when I'm like, hey, I'm in the military. But it doesn't. If anything, police have gotten more angry at me. And I'll explain why here in a second. The first time I ever got stopped and searched, I had just got out of military training. This was around 2008. I got off work at the military base. I changed out of my uniform, so I put on civilian clothes, and I went downtown to look at an apartment that I was thinking about renting. I wanted to look at the apartment from the outside and then just kind of look at the area. Not really expecting to walk around a lot, just kind of in the parking lot, look at the house, look at the place, the surroundings, and then I would decide, I would make up my mind if I wanted to rent the place or not. So I did that. I went to this parking lot at these apartments. I parked, literally, there was a police car sitting with its headlights on and taillights. It was not dark. It was starting, like, the sun was going down, but it wasn't dark. But I saw that there were two police officers, a male and female, inside the car. I parked one spot over from them. They were parked here. There's a spot here. I parked right here, got out. They looked at me. I waved. They didn't wave. That's always a heads up that if cops don't wave at you, I've noticed that if they don't wave at you or at least acknowledge you, they're going to mess with you. I've noticed that in the past, and it's been true every time. So I walk up to these apartments. I'm still in the parking lot, still visible from the police. I looked at the apartment. I decided, I want to say it was like 6 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock. So I was like, I'm going to call the apartments and see if they answer. I didn't have a smartphone at the time. I had a little flip phone. Called them, no answer. I was like, whatever. I walked around the side, still completely visible by the police officers. Just kind of looked down. There was an alley that ran along the apartments, and just kind of looked at it. And I started to walk back to my truck because I was like, okay, this place looks cool. The male and female police officer walked up on me, said, what are you doing? I said, well, I just got out of basic military training, and I'm looking for a place to rent because I moved all my stuff into my parents before I went into basic military training. And so I told him that. And he said, well, we got a call that somebody's acting suspicious. I had literally been out there no more than 5 minutes, and I was walking back to my truck. We got a call that somebody was acting suspicious outside these apartments. And I'm thinking, like, y'all are parked. I parked right next to y'all and waved at y'all. What are you talking about? I didn't say this, but I was like, okay. He said, we're going to have to search you. And I said, I don't have a problem with that. I was just like, I was confused. So I was like, I don't have a problem with that. You can search me. He was like, I need to see your ID. He said ID. He didn't say driver's license. So I pulled out. I showed him. I was like, I'm going to pull out it's in my back pocket. So I pulled out my little wallet. I took out my military ID and my driver's license, and I handed it to the police officer. And when he touched that military ID, when he saw it was a military ID, it was like that thing was on fire, like it was hot. He said, I don't need that. Immediately. Like almost threw it at me. I'm not kidding. As soon as he saw it was a military ID, he said, I don't need that. All I need is your driver's license. And he called me in. It came back, no warrants, no nothing. He said, all right, we're going to search you now. And he did. I'm talking about a full search. All up in my private areas, a complete search of me. And he asked me, like, you got anything that poke me, stick me, knives, weapons? No. So I just stood there like this while this female cop stared at me. It was the most awkward thing ever. While she stared at me, while this dude, like, patted me down, my whole entire body, went through my pockets, put his hands in and around my underwear. Like, it was super awkward. But I was just so like, what's happening? And as soon as he stopped searching me, he was like, all right, you're free to go. He told me, he said, you need to go back home right now. If I see you around here, we're going to stop you again for acting suspicious. I was like, okay. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy nonsense. But the funny thing is, my buddy, who was a police officer, he knew that I was getting out of the military. I mean, I was getting out of basic training, and he heard my name come over the radio and requested to have me stay there so he could come see me. He hit me up the next day. He called me and was like, hey man, did you get stopped downtown? And I told him, like, yeah, I got stopped downtown, all that stuff. I told him the whole story. He's like, that's crazy, dude. Like, I can't believe they'd do that to you. I was like, yeah, me too. So that was the first time I got searched. Sorry, I'm trying to rush through this. I'm like, my phone's running out of time. I'm trying not to go over 10 minutes. Second time I got searched, I worked downtown painting cars. It was late. It was like 9, 10 o'clock at night. I was working late, like I had been doing for years. And this is after I was in the military. Still, I didn't have a full-time military job yet. I was painting cars. This cop comes flying up. He had, like, and I asked my buddy who was a cop about it. He had, like, SWAT gear on. Like, he was not dressed like a normal cop. He had SWAT gear on. He drives up, turns on his lights, gets out, yells at me to take my hands out of my pockets. I had my hands in my pocket. I was smoking a cigarette. I actually had one hand in my pocket. I was smoking a cigarette. He said, get your hands out of your pockets. And I was like, whoa. So I threw the cigarette down. I was in the parking lot of the business I was working at. And he said, what are you doing out here? And I said, I work here. Like, the shop was open. All the lights were on. I'd been working on cars. And I told him I work here. And he said, well, we got people out here selling and buying drugs all the time. So he said, I'm going to search you. And I was like, okay. He searched me, took out my wallet. Same thing. You got any knives, weapons, whatever? It was like, no, I work here. Like, I'm just working. Searched me, patted me down. He didn't go as in-depth as the first time I got searched, but patted me down, ran my ID and everything, and told me that I needed to stay inside the business. You need to stay inside the business. And I was like, well, I smoke in the parking lot because we have chemicals inside that are flammable. He was like, I don't care about all that. You need to stay inside the business. And I'm like, whatever, dude. Like, y'all are just crazy. Like, they just want to tell me to do something. The third time I got searched, I didn't smoke. I lived downtown. I didn't smoke in my apartment. I would go out. We had this little picnic area in the alley that the apartment had made that I would go smoke at. And I'm sitting there smoking. Cars coming through the alley. I'm not thinking nothing of it. Like, I'm just sitting there chilling. Boom, spotlight. Cop gets out. What are you doing? I said, I'm just smoking. I live here. It was like, I don't know. It wasn't late, you know. It was like 8, 9 o'clock at night. It wasn't super late. And I was like, I live here. He was like, we've had a lot of reports of car theft and break-ins and all kind of. He just said a whole bunch of stuff. Like, I mean, he might as well just started making things. We've had murders, Godzilla killings, King Kong come through here at one point. He was gonna search me. And that's what he did. He said, we need to identify who you are and search you. And like, I'm like, all right, dude, whatever. So I put my hands up like I've done the past 2 times before. This all happened within like, I don't know, 4 years. Like, I was like, and Birmingham was a very bad place back then. So I kind of get it, but man, like, so dude searched me while his partner watched, just patted me down, searched me, called my name in, all that stuff. It was like, all right, man, you're good. Go in your house. And I'm like, I can't smoke out here. He's like, I wouldn't advise it. Go in your house. Whatever, dude. Like, I guess, I guess after the sun goes down, or like when a cop stops you, like you have to go home at that point. You have to go home, lock yourself inside for at least 24 hours until they forget who you are, and then you can come back out. That was seriously how it always felt. Like every time they searched me and didn't find anything. I mean, and I tell these cops, like, I'm in the military, there's my military ID. They'd be like, I don't care about that. I don't care about your military service or your military ID. None of that matters here. And I'm like, whatever, dude. So those are the 3 times I'd been searched. I'd been stopped multiple times, which it was in a very bad neighborhood. The place I worked before the military, I'd been stopped multiple times and asked what I was doing, but they always ID'd me. Like, I always gave my ID. And I had never once had a cop who took my military ID and said, oh, your military ID, I can use this to ID you. No, as soon as they see it's a military ID, they'd be like, I don't need this. Get this out of my face. And they would want my driver's license. It's like whatever, dude. And I don't do it anymore. I used to do that to put the cop at ease. Like, hey man, I'm in the military. I get drug tested, all kind of stuff. Like, I'm in the military. But cops act so mad at the military ID. I've never had a cop in traffic stops, cops stopping and searching me, cops just stopping me to see who I am. They always ask for an ID, a form of identification. So to put them at ease, I give them that military ID. I have never once had a cop take it and be like, oh, here's this is an ID. They've always seen it and said, nope, give me your driver's license. Whether I was in a car or not, whether I was on foot or not. Like, it's just, I don't understand why police hate that military ID so bad. I have actually never been in uniform and seen a cop and said hello to them and had them say hello back. There's a gas station down the street from where I live now, always police in it. Sometimes I'll go in there if I'm working night shift or I'm working weird hours. I'll be in there like 1, 2 in the morning. I'll see a police officer, hey, how's it going? And they just kind of look at me crazy. Like, I'm like, what is it with police and military? Like, why don't, you would think these 2 things would kind of get along a little bit, but not in my experience, they do not. But anyways, that's my experiences with getting searched. I'm going to do a part 3 later. Did I go? I did. I went way over the time that I said I wouldn't. I got kind of hyped up. But, so I'm going to do a part 3 because I have, the next one I'll tell you about is a police officer who pulled me over and just made up a bunch of stuff. Just made it all up, and I had to go to court over it. Like, he just pulled me over and was like, I saw you doing this. And I was like, no, sir, I wasn't doing that. He was like, well, you got to go to court and prove it now. Bam. So I'll do that story tomorrow. It's funny because, like, since I've gotten over 30, I haven't been messed with by the cops. Because I'm not a teenager anymore. I don't hang out in parking lots. I don't live downtown anymore. That's a bit, like, if I still lived downtown, my goodness, dude, I would still get harassed. I guarantee it. The neighborhood I'm in right now, I could tell you the story about the cop that came to my door that I called, came to my door and told me to get my hands out of my pockets. Like, whoa, dude, I called you here. Like, but, yeah, I'm glad I don't live downtown anymore for that. Like, just the police, they would see you and just be like, stop, we're going to search you. There's nothing you can do. Okay, you know, like, what am I going to do, get tased? But anyways, I'll tell you about part 3 tomorrow. Appreciate y'all watching. Check me out, SoundCloud, Instagram, Twitter, and like always, check me out on the streets.